So we're in high school, and everybody's really angsty, especially this girl Veronica, who wants to be like these girls called the Heathers, who are called that because that's their name. Then this kid JD shows up, and he's like the kid at school you avoid because he wears a trench coat every day, like in class, and you're 80% sure he's packing under there, and his hair is all greasy, and he thinks he's cool because he hates everyone, like that kind of like school shootery kid. He's that guy. And instead of being like, I am going to stay far away from this individual, Veronica's like, yeah, that's what I want, because this was written by a middle-aged man in the 80s. And he's like, hey, here are some very clear signals you should stay far away from me. And she's like, wow, how great. Veronica also has been hanging out with the Heathers, but then Big Red Heather gets mad at her, and she's like, you can't hang out with us anymore. Then they murder her. By accident. Kind of. And then they write a suicide note, which makes everybody at school go like, ah, no, Big Red. Then these two football players are like, hey, Veronica, sex. And she's like, no, thank you. And they're like, darn. And then they murder them. But this time, it's only half by accident. And Veronica's like, JD, what the heck? And he's like, literally, what did you expect from me? Then Veronica's like, hey, maybe let's stop doing murder. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Then Tiny Yellow Heather is just trying to take some pills. And Veronica's like, here, let me help you with not doing that. And then the mean green Heather machine is like, I am Big Red now. Then Veronica's other friend is like, whoops, fell off a bridge, but she's okay. Then JD shows up like, hey, Veronica. Hey, JD, what's up? I was thinking I might try to kill you. Oh, okay, me first. And he's like, ah, dang it. Hey, by the way, I'm gonna go blow up the school now. And she's like, oh, well, that's no good. Better go stop that. And then she does. And JD's like, I'm suddenly a redeemable character now, but not actually. And then he blows up. And Veronica's like, hey, everybody, let's be nice to each other, I guess. Others is like if your high school experience had a musical, but it wasn't actually your high school experience, it was what your angst thought your high school experience was. I don't think this is intentional at all, but I feel like every character that is an adult represents some part of like how it feels to be a teenager. For example, I don't know, Heather Chandler is the intense need to be liked by absolutely everyone, and Kurt and Ram represent being super teenage horny. Martha's like how it feels to be an outsider, to feel unwanted and uncool and alone, and to be the only senior in your senior year that doesn't have a car, so you have to call your mom to give you a ride home from rehearsal with a fucking freshman. Not that I would, no. Veronica is the feeling of just watching everything go by, sort of neutral, a passenger, and then there's JD, and JD is the worst. JD represents that fuck everyone feeling you get when even the slightest thing goes wrong, or when someone does something that you don't like. When you grow up, or at least when you get out of high school, it's called misanthropy, and misanthropy is fucking whack. Misanthropy is when people are like, I hate everyone. But you don't hate everyone, you just hate people who aren't you. And also, you really just hate, like, the person or people who did that specific thing that you didn't like. And besides, you don't know everyone. How the fuck are you gonna judge them? Judge your pants? Like, JD doesn't know all of Westerberg. He barely knows Veronica. There might very well have been some kids he would have gotten along with there. Like Trenchcoat Club or something. It's easy to see the appeal of his worldview. Being a teenager is the fucking worst. And sometimes it's also great, but mostly it's hot garbage. And when your hormones are like, and everybody else's hormones are like, and your brain also is like, and all the people you have to put up with and all the homework you have to do is like, it's not hard to fall into a state of fuck everythingness. Ism? The teachers at Westerberg are either clueless or full of shit, or both. And like a wise man once said, parents just don't understand. When someone shoves you in the hallway or laughs when you trip over nothing, or just gives you a look that you interpret to mean I am superior to you, it's easy to look at other people as one-dimensional. And also, just as a side note, everyone is more concerned with everyone judging them than they are with actually judging other people, in my experience. So, you've got that going for you. But here's the thing, and you know it's a thing because I have to introduce the concept of it being a thing. Misanthropy doesn't take into account that maybe not everyone is terrible. In fact, maybe only a small percentage of people are terrible, and actually, maybe nobody and everybody is terrible, depending entirely on your relationship to them. And probably, like, the day of the week. Have you ever thought about how everyone has had their own life. Like, every single person has years and years of existence constantly being them all the time. And for those 17 years, they've probably had a lot of problems, and those problems have made them think everything is out to get them, including you, who is meanwhile dealing with a lot of problems that make you think everything is against you, including them. And I've been that person. Nobody wants to hang out with that person, because honestly, you're a little shithead, me at age 14, probably. Maybe if you could stop being so fucking smug all the time and actually hear people out, you'd see that there's immense beauty in some of your fellow creatures in this thing we call life, and you're never going to be happy unless you realize that, even though the people around you may be deeply flawed and act like dicks sometimes, one, so do you, and two, they still have fucking value. Sometimes quite a lot of it. And you're more like them than you think, so calm the fuck down. It's okay. I promise. And also, probably don't date Becky. She's not great for you. Plus, she turns out to be a lesbian. Anyway, you have to deal with other humans. But that is actually a good thing, because as much as life with people you hate is hot garbage, life without other humans is super hot garbage. That's why people in isolation and solitary confinement go insane, because without everybody else, it's just you, screaming internally, forever.